Hello, welcome to another video for our virtual apple festival. Today we are going to be tasting some of the varieties that we grow here in our heritage orchard. So we have about 30 varieties here. There's a ton of different apple varieties in the world, but most of the varieties don't grow well in Minnesota because of our super cold winters. The Heritage Orchard at Gibbs Farm contains over 30 varieties of apples, and we are really lucky to have it here because it is a piece of living history that you can see and taste. So our orchard is really here thanks to some wonderful volunteers that give really generously of their time and all of their apple expertise. So we are going to be taste testing 9 different varieties of apples. I'm going to recruit some of my co-workers to see what they think about the different apples. So we're going to do it in 3 rounds. The first round is going to be Minnesota themed. The second one is going to be old varieties or antique apples. And the third one is going to highlight the different uses of apples. Our first taste test round is going to be Minnesota themed apples. So we're going to start with the Melinda Apple, and the Melinda Apple is known as the mother of Minnesota apples. It was originally found in Vermont, and it started being grown in Minnesota around the 1860s. So this is an apple that has been described as pear-like, also undistinguished, and even as an apple with a hint of flavor. So this apple might not be the tastiest eating apple, but it's super cold hardy and it's a good producer, and so it has been the parent or grandparent of a lot of the apples that we know and love in Minnesota today. First up, we have our Melinda apple. So grab a slice, Janie and Chad, and see what you think.
It smells a little tart-ish.
What do you say this was described as an apple with a hint of flavor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
Absolutely.
foam.
But it grew in Minnesota early on.
Yes, it is very cold hardy, and it lasts even in really cold Minnesota winters. So what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
If you don't need flavor, it's good. But maybe with some caramel syrup or caramel dip.
That would make everything taste better.
Very true. I would eat my vegetables that way.
Chad, what do you think?
Well, I'm glad to know that it's the precursor to the Minnesota apple industry, because we have a wonderful apple industry now. I, however, would not cross the street to get one of these or pay anything for it. The flavor is just not there. No.
Okay, so next up is my personal favorite. This is the Harrelson Apple. So the Melinda is one of the parents of the Harrelson Apple. It is described as very tart, and you can find it in orchards all over Minnesota. So Janie and Chad, do you want to grab a bite?
Oh. Oh yeah. Definitely tart. I think my first job was picking apples for an apple orchard down by Lake City, Minnesota. We had these. I remember picking them. But yeah, tasty, very tart though, not sweet.
I was never an apple picker, but I like this.
Any final thoughts?
Are they all this size?
They are a larger apple.
There's a lot to them. I would go out of my way to get one of these.
Especially if they had caramel.
Oh, of course you did.
Our final apple in round 1 is the Honey Gold. So the Honey Gold is a cross between Harrelson and Golden Delicious apples. So it's much sweeter than a Harrelson, and it was developed in 1935. So let's see what you guys think about this one.
So it's a more modern apple.
Yes.
That's much sweeter.
Oh yeah. Softer flavor. If that makes any sense. Soft is a flavor.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
amazed that these apples are all growing in our apple orchard here at Gibbs Farm. And they turned out beautifully. So
Yeah, this was a great year for apples.
It's tasty. So it's a mix of a Golden Delicious and
A Harrelson.
Harrelson. Okay. You can get the that kind of grainy flavor, mealy a little bit that you get with the Red Delicious. This is better than that. It's tighter,
Yeah.
but pretty soft. Flavor's good. One of the things I don't care for Red Delicious is that they're so mealy, and this is definitely, it's got a little bit of that, but it's not bad.
Yeah. The flavor I'd say is better than a Red Delicious, but the texture is relatively similar. So the
Perfect.
Harrelson's my favorite.
Right, our third round, the theme is old apples, and we are starting off with the famous snow apple. It's a great all-around apple and was planted in the U.S. and Canada during the 1700s, especially in French settlements. So we have Sammy and Chad here to give it a try and let us know what you think.
So, famous snow apple. Not just famous snow apple.
Famous.
Okay, interesting. It's fascinating to me. It's got a cloudy skin on it. I don't know, how does it taste over there?
It is pretty tart.
That's dense. That's hard.
It is. It's not like quite like crab apple tart, but it's definitely
Oh, that's close.
yeah.
So what,
Good though.
what would they use this for?
This is a great all-around apple, so baking, eating, and then also storing.
Well, the density, I'm sure that it would store well. But
Yeah.
And apples were a great way to get some variety and vitamin C in the winter.
I don't think I go out of my way to get these, but
Okay, our second apple in our second round is the Spitzenberg, and this was discovered by a Dutch settler living in New York in the early 1700s. It became very popular when Thomas Jefferson ordered Spitzenberg trees. It's a great all-around apple, good for baking, storing, and eating, and it has been described as spicy. So let's see what you think.
Well, here we go.
and this grows well in Minnesota.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't get the spicy. I'm not feeling it.
Nope.
What notes do you?
It's another tartar apple. Not as tart as the last one we just had.
Do you like it better?
I actually do like that one better,
This
actually.
is delicious.
It has like a complex flavor to it. Like, I guess it's not like spicy the way you would think of it, like being like hot or something, but there is like a complex like note in there. I feel like that could be interpreted as spicy.
I don't agree. Honestly, it's a little tart at the start, but the more you chew on it, it sweetens up.
Yeah.
It's really, it's delicious.
Okay, and our third apple, we have a white winter pear Maine. And this variety has some controversy around it. It's either a relative of an old English apple dating from 1200 AD or a creation of apple breeders in the Midwest. It's an old favorite and a good keeper. And I also think for a fun bit of variety, we are eating it slightly before it's ripe. So let's give it a try.
Before it's ripe, huh?
That's correct.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I do enjoy controversial apples. This is, Yep, that's not right yet.
Yeah, it's like a really interesting texture, kind of hard, but not just like regular apple hard. And then it has like sort of a weird like it kind of like filmy for a minute.
Yes. It has a waxy skin as well.
You can tell. It absolutely
Yeah.
does.
But I was thinking though that even though these are grown like they're heritage apples, they're older apples, they still have like a lot of flavor. And when you get a lot of apples from the store today, they don't. If you don't get them in season, they really actually don't have a whole lot of flavor. So it's just interesting to see that contrast. You would maybe think like an old apple doesn't have good flavor, but they really do.
Well, I would second that. A lot of heirloom plants, apples, corn, other things, you do get better flavor from those seeds. They're not bred for the same kind of things. You have to eat them within a fairly narrow window, which is something they've bred out of the stuff. You know, you can eat an apple that's fairly old now and it tastes the same as when it's new.
Yeah.
That's not the case with these. So this would be a case where if we harvested this right on time, you know, the flavor would be a whole different story. But no, the heirloom varieties, before they've been diluted and combined with other things, definitely have more distinctive flavors.
Absolutely.
How many varieties do we have in our orchard here, Simon?
I think we've got about 30.
Okay. So 30 different varieties of apples growing at the Gibbs Farm.
Yes, and they're all heritage breeds.
Wow. That's impressive.
For our third round, we have,
I'm Cassidy.
And I'm Robert.
and they are going to be tasting some different apples that we have growing in the orchard that are used specifically for different things. So up first we have Cox's Orange Pippin, and this variety was first sold in the UK in the 1850s, and it's still really popular as a British apple. So it's tasty for eating, but it's really well known as being a cider apple. So if you guys want to grab a slice and let us know what you think.
Tart, but sweet.
Almost a honey flavor to it. So nice.
Good apple.
So this, usually when you make cider, you use several varieties of apples, but you can purchase just cider that's just made from these apples. And you can buy them in the grocery stores all over in the UK, but you're gonna only be able to find them at kind of specialty orchards here in the US. So, would you buy this apple?
Absolutely.
buy this
It's a good one.
Do you like tartar apples or sweeter apples?
I usually like a sweeter apple.
Boy, I can go either way, to be honest. Sometimes you really want to have the tart ones, but the sweet ones are just usually the safe bet.
Okay, great. Okay, for our second round, we have the Wolf River apple, and I think you can tell this is a very large apple. These apples can weigh up to 1 pound, and the variety is from the mid-1800s. It comes from Wisconsin by the Wolf River, and it's a prime baking apple because of its size, flavor, and the very important fact that it keeps its shape while baking. So let's give it a try and see what you think.
It's not as juicy as the other ones, but I can definitely see where, like, if you were baking and you're like adding sugar and stuff to it, that this would be a good apple.
Definitely for apple pie, because this would pick up the flavors of the spice. Yeah. Yeah, it's not on its own.
I'd almost say like spongy to like soak up the sugars and the cinnamon from the apple pie.
So that is a different texture.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't want to say like dry, but it's not as juicy as the other ones.
Perfect. Yeah, so sometimes they say that you can make a pie out of one of these apples. So it's a good one for that. Our third and final apple of this round is the Chestnut Crab. It's also developed by the University of Minnesota. These are really great for jams and jellies because they have a lot of natural pectin. So they're also described as good eating apples. They're pretty nutty and crisp. So let's see what you guys think about that.
They were kind of sour.
Yeah, it's has pretty solid texture to it, but the flavor, it takes a minute before you really pick up on the flavor. So that makes it kind of interesting, but very similar to crab apples that I've had for sure.
Have you tasted a lot of crab apples, Cassidy?
Yeah, well, a lot of the crab apples I have were like so sour that I can't really eat them anyways.
Much sweeter than you would normally expect from a crab apple. I thought it was going to be a little more sour.
Have
Yeah.
you ever had crab apple jam or jelly?
I don't know that I've had crab apple. They're apple jams, for
Yeah.
sure, but they might be using that to make them anyway.
Yeah, they might. Hey, any final thoughts on this apple?
I think this one might be my favorite.
It's very good. very small though, so you have to get quite a big bunch of them if you're going to feed the family.
Yes, they are. They grow a ton of apples on each tree, so it's a pretty popular one. And crab apples get less bugs and diseases than other apples, so it's kind of a good one. They're also very popular with deer. So you gotta fence it off if you have it in your orchard. Okay, and then do you guys have any final thoughts about the apples in these rounds?
They're a great 3, and then also nice with variety, so it wasn't like we were trying to compare 3 that were exactly the same. So I appreciate
Multi-purpose
that.
apples. Think about what you're gonna do with them.
Yeah. Okay, thank you guys.
Yeah.